Hey y'all, happy Sunday and welcome to this week's live Q&A session. This is the portion of the show where we allow YouTube to send out notifications that we're going live. If you're watching this live Q&A on replay, please scrub ahead until this graphic disappears and the actual show begins. If you're watching live and you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and put them in the live chat. But for now, grab a beverage, sit back, and relax while the countdown timer does its thing. Then we'll get started. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Happy Sunday, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well and that things are going your way. Man, it's been rather a calm week. We finally got a break in the weather. Well, over the past couple 3 days, we finally got some rain for the first time since June, and it's cleared the air. We're not dealing with the smoke we've been dealing with, so thank you for that. Oh, man, nice to be able to breathe air you can't see, if you know what I mean, or taste. That's beside the point. I have to admit that I kind of dropped the ball in a couple of areas here. In last week's video where I debuted the lean-to and everything, I said that I would post running the wiring and plumbing in my air compressor in another video. And by the time I was able to get started on it, everything showed up. I didn't turn a single camera on. It's done. I have a light in there. I have electricity in there. The air is plumbed in. Basically, just let me switch over cameras and then change the angle of said camera. Yeah, you can just see the machine. There is a air hose reel mounted on the wall above my vacuum for the table saw, and that's basically it. But not a single second of footage was shot on it, because by the time I got to that, I just wanted it done. So, but yeah, I now have air. I got lights out there. I've got electricity out there. I can plug in other stuff, and I'm a happy guy. But that's not what you guys came here to talk about, as evidenced by the questions we already have. A real quick one. When's the laser getting delivered? Um, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. That is, I mean, stay tuned. We'll see what happens. I'm not really sure. So, you know, all right. Let's go ahead and get into your questions. And I know that was basically a definite maybe, Michael, but that's the only thing I can say. Um, got a three-parter here from Susan Branham, and we'll take them one step at a time. Hey, Mark, do you have a segment on carving letters or words out instead of in? Okay, so I'm guessing what you mean by that, Susan, is pocketing out an area and leaving the letters standing. I don't have a specific video on that, but I think the closest you could probably come to that would be my video on stacked text. And I'll link that as soon as we're done live here. That might give you a little bit of insight on that. But if there's one thing I would say, it's and the same holds true whether you're using a V-bit or an end mill. When you're cutting around the profile of the letters to leave those letters standing proud, two things. Try to avoid letters that leave real thin sections behind, and I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. And run your smallest profile bit first. So you want to do the outline of that letter first. And that's because when you're cutting into the material, you have more support around that letter than if you try to do the outline of that letter last, and you have these tall ridges sticking up that you're trying to trace around. And it's the same whether you're using an end mill, a tapered ball nose, or a V-bit. Use that smallest bit to outline the letter first, and you'll have a lot less chip out and a lot less splitting. So I will be doing a video on that. I have a video that I want to do, a project that has been on the back burner for probably 4 years now that I'm going to finally get done. um, so, uh, just use the smallest bit first, and then you can come back and clear out with the larger bit second. The second part of your question is, what is the best font to use for 1-inch letters? And here I'm going to use the phrase nobody wants to hear. And that is, it depends. Style is everything when it comes to this. Let me go ahead and bring us up into Aspire, and I'll just do some text here. Now, you did specify 1-inch tall text, so I'm going to go for text height of 1 inch. And I'll just do my first name here. And what I try to do is stay away. For instance, let's go with Times New Roman. I try to stay away from fonts that are going to leave, this is what I was talking about, fonts that are going to leave little thin areas here. Because with a height of 1 inch, and remember, that 1 inch is the tallest part of the tallest letter. It's not an average. So when we're looking at this, if I go from here in the center of this R up to the tallest point, we're looking at right there, you can see 0.6958. So we're looking at a very thin area right in here. Your bit's probably not going to get all the way into this corner, so you're going to leave a little bit of a radius. And we've got a very thin area to carve out. So I would try to avoid anything that's going to leave something behind that's going to be very easy to chip out. But again, it's 100% style. Martin is 100% correct. At that height, it isn't really going to make a whole heck of a lot of difference. So it's the font that best suits the project and the look you're after. And he's 100% right. If you want a script font, then Times New Roman is not going to work. If you want something maybe a little bit more modern, let's stop that. Let's pick this up. Okay. If you want something that's perhaps a little bit modern, what do I got here? I got CC Ridge. I don't know what that is. It's a little more blocky. So I don't have those thin areas to worry about. I do have some sharp inside corners, but it's all about the style you want. I find that it's easier for folks to identify what they don't like and what they don't want versus identifying what they do like and what they do want. So I'm going to recommend a resource that I have used quite often. Let's bring up a new window and drag it over here into this monitor. Wordmark.it. And see, I use it a lot, so it automatically comes up. Now, Wordmark IT, there is a browser extension that you can download for your web browser, whatever that may be. And when you add that browser extension, it's accessing the fonts that you have installed on your computer. So let's say down here in this big blank, I enter my name. The minute I hit enter, it's going to display my name in all of the fonts I have downloaded onto my computer. So that's going to help me make that decision. Okay. Now there's a free version, which I'm using right now. And then there is a pro version that, obviously has a fee. I have never used the pro version. So I don't have any input on that. Now, what you can do is you can go through here and say, okay, I like this one. So I'll hit this little plus sign right there. And we'll keep scrolling down past the nag screen. And, oh, I like this one too. So I'll add a plus sign over here. And I like this one over here. And that's just for an example. You'll see filter selected fonts. What it's going to do when I click that, it's just going to bring up those three I selected. Then I can choose from there. And it's telling me I've got Algerian, Anastasia Regular, and Arnprior, I guess. Okay, fine. I've decided I like Algerian. So I'll back out of that. With my text selected, I'll jump up here back into the text box rather. And now I can change that to Algerian. So you have a lot of choices. You have a lot of advantages and disadvantages to each font. But I would highly recommend that you keep the style in mind that you're after and trust your eye. You know what doesn't look good. And as I say, sometimes it's easier to identify what you don't like than it is to identify what you do like. Michael Mazalik says, yes, I use it constantly. Then he corrects all the time. Yes, it really is a useful tool. Some people don't like it because it is a browser extension and it does access the fonts on your computer, but I have never had an issue, with spam. I've never had an issue with anything intrusive happening on my computer. It is a very good resource. And again, it's called wordmark.it. And my buddy Steve has linked it here in the chat. And I will post a link to it in the description of this video as soon as we're done. I use it all the time. And it really is a valuable resource. Now, to get out of this, once you have filtered it, you could just go back to show all fonts and off you go. So Brooks Martin says, can't you start typing the font name to narrow your search in the 23.99 fonts you have? Yes, but a lot of times even I don't know what font I want. You can go over here and click over here in that drop down menu and type, let's go with the letter M, and it's going to take me down to the M section. Then I can start looking for what I wanted, Magneto, let's say. So, you can start typing in the name of the font that you want. Let's try something else. Let's click the down arrow, put my cursor down in this list somewhere, and to TIME Times New Roman is one of the selections. Okay. Just by default, let me close this and deselect this text. Just by default, when you click that textbook, when you click that text icon rather, and go over here into your drop down menu, it's going to list the last 5 fonts you used. That's going to be right up at the top. So that's another help. So Let's see here. I think Brook means after you identify the name from Woodmark. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If in Wordmark you find uh, the font that you want, let's say I want oh Alphaville bold. Yes, I certainly can. I decided that's the font I want to use. I can come over here and go ALPH, and there it is, Alphaville. And let's see, there should be Alphaville bold. Alphaville. Bring that back up. That's one issue. Let's see. Yeah, that must be it because I don't have another Alphaville in here. One issue you will find when dealing with fonts, if you take a look, if you notice, you'll find, for instance, fonts here that start with numbers. Okay, 911 Porsche, 5 a.m. Melfina. Then suddenly you have a font that has the little at symbol at the beginning. The at symbol means it's a vertical font. When you type text using, let's just use Adobe Gothic here, and there is my text box. When I start typing text, it's vertical. Okay, so any font you find with that little at symbol at the beginning of the name is a vertical font. All right, just so you know. But we've gone way off topic here. So basically, I guess what I'm trying to say, um, Susan, is that sometimes there is no best. It's going to be based on what you want, uh, the overall style of the project, because it's real easy to get tunnel vision and focus in so much on something that you don't back out and take a look at the entire project. So let the project dictate what you want versus what you don't want. Um, let's see, who else was it? Somebody up here. Russell Faraday makes an excellent point here. Bold often helps with thin areas. And he's 100% right. When you're talking about an area like the R or the A, uh, like I was talking about earlier, we go back into the text here, and I can select bold and watch what happens to the text when I do. It fattens it up to a point. So it fattens it up to a point, but if we look, watch the distance here to here, not a lot. It fattened this up, but it didn't make this much bigger at all. So, you know, it's, at the end of the day, it's 100% your choice. Now, also, bold will mean you'll have to come in, and I would need to do some kerning here because these letters are way too close together. That's another thing to pay attention to, is the space between the letters, because can your bit get in between this R and this K? Probably not. Let's see how big that gap is. We'll start right here, click, move straight over, and click again. 0.0067 inches. Yeah, no, my bit ain't that small. So you will have to get in and do some spacing work. But overall, trust your eye. You know what you like and you know what you don't like. And trust that. It's I know a lot of times we get to thinking, well, there's got to be a better way to do this. And sometimes there is, but sometimes there isn't. You just have to trust your eye. So the final part of your question is, do you have a segment on using a laser? No, I don't. I don't own a laser. There are some videos on my channel. I Years ago I got a one of the little K40 lasers, and there were some problems. It was damaged in shipping, and I could not get it aligned, and I could not get it to focus. Nothing to do with the company that made the laser. And in fact, they were nothing but good. They I sent them pictures, of course, but I was able to return the laser like 2 weeks after the return window closed. And they were more than happy to work with me. And this wasn't a sponsorship thing. They don't know me from Adam's cat. I paid for the laser, but when they saw the damage to it, and then when they finally got it back, they said, "Yeah, there's no way that you would have ever got this thing to focus. It was just too damaged." That was my only experience with laser, and I had it just long enough to figure out it wasn't big enough. And so I haven't explored the laser any further, but never say never. Keep an eye on this space. You know, um, I'm working on it. In other words, Martin Pearson says the at symbol at the start of some fonts isn't a Vectric thing; it's a Windows thing. Yes, absolutely. That's a Windows thing. Michael Mazalik adds, the at symbol is for fonts that are written vertical, for example, Oriental fonts. Yes, yes. I have asked, and a couple of people have asked, and I don't know anything that isn't made public. Okay, I know some people have asked for right to left, for instance, in the case of Hebrew, and they say Vectric has said no, they don't support that yet, but that's as far as they've gone. So I don't know if they're going to support that or if there are any plans for it. Oops, excuse me. Um, but we'll see what happens. So let's see here now. So I hope that answers your question, Susan, or your questions, Susan. Here's a quick one from Vortex 8. I'm going to be getting my machine soon. Sweet. And I'm going to do a set of coasters and the address sign you suggested. Sweet. Is there any wood that you would suggest I use first? I know free is always good. And I know free advice is worth every penny you're paying for it, okay? Um, but I give this piece of advice to everyone. And that is check your local Facebook Marketplace, check your local Craigslist, um, Kijiji, whatever you use, and get into the free section and look for wood that people are getting rid of. You'll find scrap wood all over the place. I cannot count the number of fence boards that were headed for the landfill that I carved up learning how to use my machine. I don't have a philosophical problem with taking something that somebody was going to throw away and carving it up to use it. Excuse me, to learn how to use it. I don't have a philosophical problem with that. I do have a problem with getting a nice chunk of bird's eye maple for however much money and messing that up on my first attempt when I don't really know what I'm doing. So I would suggest that you find scrap wood. Free is always perfect. Check, like I said, your local Facebook Marketplace. Check your local Craigslist, Kijiji, whatever. and check your free section and see what people are throwing out. And I mean, when I was learning to use my old rotary axis on my Gatton CNC, I found some cedar. They were meant to be spindles for a deck, and they were 1.5 by 1.5 square and about 2 feet long. And they were headed for the landfill. I got those and cut them into pieces that I could put in my rotary axis and learned how to use my rotary axis on that. It's rare that you're going to have 100% success on your first project. And if you cut up 3 fence boards trying to get that address sign perfected, who cares? They were headed for the landfill. So you really haven't done anything. I mean, philosophically speaking, yes, you've learned. Yes, you have perfected the 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 design process, number one, and you have learned what your machine can do. You've learned a little bit about feeds and speeds and cutting that particular material, and you now are developing confidence in the work. Robert Dymock has an excellent point here. Don't forget to check it for metal, nails, screws, staples, BBs, bullets. I mean, you'd be crazy. You'd be amazed at the crazy stuff you'll find in a lot of this thing. Russell Faraday says cheap softwood is very difficult to get good results, so not great for learning. I would agree to a point. The point is, no, you're not going to get a perfect. You're not going to get a perfect piece on your first attempt, but it's all the learning process. I find that people have the least amount of confidence in 2 things when they're first starting out. Number one, their ability to set their X, Y, and Z zero accurately. And number 2, tool changes. So if you can learn those 2 steps, even if you're not getting perfect results, you're learning. And I did end up with decent results, but not perfect results in softwoods. But I find that to be universal, and skill level doesn't really enter into it, or education level doesn't really into it. Now I see Vortex 8 saying we have skids at work I can use. Would that work? It might, but be very, very careful, because those things they've not been taken care of. They're not designed to be taken care of. So they have rocks. I mean, they get dropped and scooted around and everything on concrete or out in gravel driveway. They have rocks, and that'll tear up a tool real quick. They have nails, they have staples, they have all kinds of stuff in them. You might want to look for clearer material. Now, to Russell's point about cheap softwood, not everything you find on those is cheap softwood. And I'm not talking about necessarily construction lumber. I've come across cherry, maple. I've not come across walnut for free, but alder, birch. I've come across beech. I've come across all kinds of nice hardwoods in the free section. I took my niece, for example. I took my niece to go get a whole kitchen full of solid cherry cabinet doors because the person was remodeling. They used the cabinet carcass, but they were getting rid of the doors, and they put them on the free section. Well, I took her down and we picked them up, and the ones she didn't want, I have. So that's something that I don't really have a philosophical problem with learning on and carving up, because yeah, it's a nice material that could be saved for something else. But then again, you kept it out of the landfill, so I don't have an issue with that. Bill Coleman also has an excellent point. Old furniture can be dismantled. You have to be careful because a lot of it's particle board and MDF. My point is, there are all kinds of free materials out there that'll save you spending a lot of money on materials that you know you're going to just carve up and throw away. Now, if you don't want to go that route and you just want to learn how to use your machine, then I would say the wood, choose a wood you like. Choose a wood that you like. I mean, if you want a light wood, fine. If you want a dark wood, fine. But know that it's very hard to find, quote unquote, the perfect exterior clear coat. So for like your address sign, I would paint it with exterior house paint. I wouldn't, get some nice walnut and put that up as an address sign because you're going to be maintaining it. You're going to have to refinish it because the worst enemy of anything exterior is UV from the sun. And I don't think the perfect exterior clear coat has been invented yet. There are some that will delay the inevitable for a while, but you're going to be refinishing it every few years anyway. So just my 2 cents. Something a little bit, so I hope that helps anyway. I know it probably didn't answer your question, but I hope it helps. Something a little bit more involved from Brooks Martin. And I believe I did a video on this, but I'm not 100% certain. I'll have to look into it. I'd like some vectors into the clip art. Okay, I think you mean I like to put some vectors into the clip art, like the molding profiles folder. How do we do that? Okay, I did do a video a few years back on making custom clip art libraries. But let me go ahead and bring this back in. And I believe what you're talking about, Brooks, is this folder here. Putting a new folder over here for like 3D tabs, animals, borders, but you're talking about something like molding profiles. You want to put these vectors into the clip art folder. There are a couple of ways of doing it. If you want that folder to appear up here versus your own library, you can create a new folder. You can put that folder anywhere on your computer and it will come in down here. It'll be added to the list. Now, if you want it up here in this hierarchy, then you need to search out a specific place on your computer. And I'll bring that up right now. You'll go to your local disk, C, Users, Public Documents, Vectric Files, Clip Art. That's where the Clip Art folder right there, that's where that is stored. And each one of these folders is these folders right here. So let's say I want to add this to my clip art because I use it a lot. Okay. I will, let's see, can I do it with a right click? I don't think I can. No. Let's see. Which is it in? I think I'll have to export. No, that's not it. See, you kind of caught me unaware. Selection. I can't remember where it is. I don't want to save it as 3D clip art. I can't remember where it is. I think in the case of fonts, I think I have to export it as like a DXF and then bring it in. Let me try that. Convert to curves. And we'll go up here. Well, file, export as DXF. Before I do that, however, I want to go into that folder and I want to create a new folder. And I'm going to call it text and hit enter. Okay, so now I have text as a new folder. All right. So with these selected, file, export, DXF, now I'm going to navigate to that folder. And it will be local disk C, users, public documents, Vectric Files, clip art, and I'm going to put it in text and call it Mark. Save. Now I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to click add folder. And I'm going to go back through that whole trail again. Users, public documents, Vectric Files, clip art. I'm going to select text and say OK. My text folder is now right here, and I have no artwork. Okay, so that wasn't the right way to do it. I love it when this happens. There is a way to select these vectors and save them as clip art. It's not there. It's not there. I don't want to export. Okay, no, it's not 3D clip art. Nope, there it is. Now it wouldn't be under model. Brooks, I'm going to have to get back to you. I'm going to have to get back to you. Martin says, I'm not 100% sure, but I think you have to close the spire before it'll show up. You think? Let's try it. I'm all for it. Boom. No, don't want to save changes. So now let's open up Aspire and see if it works. And we'll create new file. Doesn't matter. Okay, let's go into clip art and let's clip on text. Nope, it's still not there. That's okay. Let me get back to you. There is a way of doing it. I just can't remember off the top of my head. Dirty little secret. That's one of the reasons I make videos, is because I can't remember. So, but I'll get back to you on it. Okay. There is a way to do it. I'm trying to remember what that way is. But let's see. Let me make sure. DXF. No, it's not going to do the DXF files. I'm still looking at this here. Mark, you dummy, you. I just figured it out. Again, I was overcomplicating things. And that's a common thing. Let me go ahead and share again. I can overcomplicate a marble. All right, I'm going to import that DXF I just made. Open. And there it is. I want to save it as a CRV file. Okay. So let's save as. I've got it in the text window. And let's save it as a CRV file. Drop down menu, and we'll save that as a vcarv. And I'll name it Mark. Hit enter. Okay, we're fine. Go to clip art, and there it is. So just save it as a CRV file. I knew there was a way to do it. But then, so you can go ahead and you can add it, and you're all set. Okay, it's not going to import any other settings or anything, but do know that whatever you have in that CRV file, it's going to load when you go to use it. Okay, so I can get rid of this text here, delete. I want to go to this, double click it, and there it is. Okay. So just save it as a CRV file. If you have Aspire, you can save it as a CRV 3D. So that's how you do it. Sorry. I do plan on doing a video on this. I just gotta get there. So let's see. Martin Pearson says, I normally just do it through Windows and generally save as EPS files. Now, do EPS files load in the clip art folder? Of course, I'm pointing at stuff when you can't see it. Do EPS files import into the clip art folder like this? So Ray Dixon says, wouldn't you look at what a clip art is saved as to know what is viewable? I just did. Yeah, that's how I found it, Ray. You're absolutely right. I looked in, let me open this folder up. I went into stylized words because I know that they are text. And I see CRV files and vclip files. Well, I know I can't save vclip files, and neither can vcarv pro, but I can say save CRV files. So that's what I did, and it came back to me. So let's see here. But if you don't want to go through all this and find this folder, what you can do is you can click add folder and you can navigate to anywhere on your computer. So if you have a folder of files that you have already made, you don't have to do a lot of file shifting. You can just go import the CRV files that are in that folder. Okay. So hope that helps. And that was in the custom library. But I'll get further into that in the video I do on this. I just thank you for asking, and thank you for bringing it back into my attention. Michael Mazalik says, no, EPS files do not automatically load in clip art. And Martin confirmed it. No, they don't. I just checked. All the 2D files are saved as CRV files. Yes. Yes, that's what I discovered. So let's see here. Let's see. A lot of people talking about Vortex. Blaine Sear, welcome back aboard, becoming a channel member. I know you were a channel member before. Welcome back. And let's see here, Steve. entered the link to my clip art library video. Thank you very much, Steve, for doing that. I will also put a link down in the description of this as soon as we are finished here. Let's see what other questions we have up here. Ray Dixon says, I get wood from estate sales where lots of wood tools are listed in the sale. I picked up a 15-inch wide rough cut walnut, 12-foot long for $20 once. Jeez. Ray, this is just me talking here. You spelled stole it wrong. So, now Vortex 8 is getting a lot of good advice and talking about him getting his new machine. Let me throw something at you here. It says, yes, I'm thinking it'll take me about 6 hours to assemble my Pro model since I've not done it before. Also, I'm getting the spindle, so that may add to my time. It will add to your time. But let me throw something at you, okay? I don't know anything about, and just so everyone's on the same page, Vortex 8 is getting the Shapeoko 5 Pro, which I think is actually a pretty cool looking machine. It that uses the HG15 linear rails and ball screws. It's not belt drive at all, and I think you're going to be happy with that. It looks like a pretty stout machine. I don't know anything at all about assembling it, but I can tell you in the case of my Avid, it arrived in 24 boxes. And I looked at it and was just kind of like, okay, now what? It took me, I would say, a grand total, and it's a 4x4 machine. It took me a grand total of 5 days to put it together, but I worked on it a little bit at a time. And remember, free advice is worth every penny you pay for it. All I'll say is take your time. It's not a race. Slow and methodical. I don't know what assembly you're going to have to do. You may not have to do any, and it'll just arrive on a crate. Then you somehow got to lift that puppy up and put it on whatever table you're mounting it on. But slow and methodical. Take your time. It's going to be there for however long you decide to own it. It's not a race. Read through the instructions, then do it again before you do each section. And if something doesn't feel right, stop, back up, and try it again. If something doesn't look right, stop, back up, get into the book, and try it again. You're not the first one to do this. By all means, get on the Shapeoko support forums and ask a lot of questions. Support forums, I think, are one of the most underused resources we have for information. And I think that is a big disservice we're doing to ourselves. These are people who own the machine and they use the machine. They've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. Support forums, the membership is usually made up. There's a few employees there just to kind of, ride shotgun and make sure everything is going okay. But they're predominantly made up of guys like you and me who use their machines. And they're there to swap ideas, offer help, guidance, and answer questions. And they're more than eager to do that. So do yourself a favor, register for those support forums and start browsing through. Look for threads that involve what you're doing now at the time. It's It's real easy to think, oh my God, I'm on my own. But no, you're not. You're not on your own. So if you have a question about it, that would be the first place I would go, would be their support forum. And from what I understand, they have very good customer service and they have a very good support system in place with lots of members. So, excuse me, I suddenly developed the hiccups. But yeah, take your time and just know it's not a race. Um, Dan Goris says, go slow and don't tighten everything until you're ready. You will strip the threads. I know a guy back east from me who he didn't strip the threads. He snapped off bolts. And it's like, dude, you're not building the bridge here. Calm down. If you're snapping off bolts, you know, to eat one less bowl of Wheaties. And whew, so okay, says it comes in 2 big boxes. Well, you may or may not be lucky. How heavy are those suckers? Because I mean, I can't speak for the Shapeoko, but I know on the Avid that gantry beam right there, that beam was by itself was 47 pounds. And that wasn't the quote unquote shipping weight. I weighed that sucker with a fish scale and 47 pounds. It's like, holy cats, they were serious. So, but yeah, good luck. And I wish you nothing but the best. So, all right. It appears that is the last. Okay, he says about 150 to 200 pounds total. Still more than I want to try to sling up onto a table by myself. So, I mean, when I was 20, that's a different story. I'm 62 now, and ain't no way. Ain't no way. That's what I got nephews down the road for. See, Brooks says those are some big fish you're caught. Well, I'm 3 miles away from world-class salmon fishing on the Rogue River right down here, and 47 pounds is a nice size salmon, but you know, it's not a world record by any uh, stance. But biggest I personally caught was 36 pounds. So, well, we have a forklift. Oh, times is hard. Times is hard. I wish I dream of a forklift. Okay. It looks like we don't have any more questions. Um, Before we wrap this up, I want to do a couple of things. Number one, I want to give a shout out to my friend Steve. Steve Nealon over at Harneal Media. You've seen him in the chat. He's here um, every week. And besides being a good friend, he is the sponsor of Mark Lindsay CNC over at Harneal Media. Now, if you are looking to get started online, if you want to develop or increase your web presence, there's no better way than to get you a website, a personal website for you or your business or both. There's no law says you can only have one. And Harneal Media is the only company I'm ever going to endorse for that. Steve is very good at what he does. He is very competitively priced, and you are going to get 100% personalized service for you. When you deal with Harneal Media, you are dealing with Steve, not somebody you'll never talk to again in some call center somewhere. So I highly recommend him. There is a link to Harneal Media in every video on my channel, and that's going to stay for the rest of my YouTube career. Yes, absolutely. Steve is 100% awesome. So Harneal Media, HARNEAL media.com. Welcome back to Blaine Sear. Thank you for coming back to the channel membership, brother and sisterhood. If you don't know what the heck I'm talking about, or if you would like more information on becoming a channel member, there, click the little join button down there next to the subscribe button. A panel is going to pop up and it'll tell you all about channel membership, and you can go from there if you choose to. We'd love to have you aboard. So check it out, see what you think. Remember, channel members, check the community tab here on my YouTube page for the link to tomorrow evening's members only live stream. We got a lot to catch up on because we had a special guest for the last 2 weeks. And other than that, hope to see the members tomorrow evening. Everybody else, I hope to see you next week. I don't know what I'm going to have next week. I'm working on a video. We'll see if it comes to fruition. If not, we'll do another open Q&A. So bring your Q's so I can give you A's. And until then, I'll get these links put in here right now. Yeah, that's it. Y'all take care. Have a great rest of your weekend, folks. And thank you very, very much. I appreciate every one of you.